Welcome to a Wednesday, July 30th edition of No Huddle Rodeo. We are brought to you by Runyon's Fine Furniture and Justin Boots, and we are bringing you a new schedule. Now, longer shows once a week, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. The morning kick is now Tuesdays at 9 a.m. We will also bring additional PBR teams content on our YouTube channel throughout the season there as well. But today, a lot to get into in the PRCA. We'll look forward and backward some weekends or some weeks on this show, but today we are looking backward at a really hectic, a really good week in rodeo. 4 massive rodeos, 3 of them in Utah, 1 in Cheyenne. We're talking 3 stars from the weekend. History in Cheyenne, Damian Brennan's rise, Stetson Wright winning 2 events in Ogden, and a little injury news to close the show. But first, let's start with those 3 stars, and let's start with Wacey Schalla, because remember, Wacey Schalla is a bareback rider as well. His bull riding getting all the headlines, rightfully so this year, but he made 3 90-point rides in the bareback riding over the weekend. He won gold in Salt Lake City. He bested Rocker Steiner and Jake Lees, and this gets interesting for a multitude of reasons for Wacey Schalla, but the biggest of them was he was number 29 at the beginning of the week in the bareback riding. He is very much in NFR contention in the bareback riding. And if he's in NFR contention in the bareback riding now, that means he is in all-around world title contention. And we have been quick to crown Stetson Wright, rightfully so. He still has a big lead, but if Wacey's at the NFR in 2 events, it is not out of the question to have him do that. And a good reminder over the weekend that just he is also a terrific bareback rider as well. 2 of those 90-point rides came in Cheyenne. 1 of them came in the finals in Cheyenne. So a boatload of money there, $28,000 total. And like I said, he'll be right up in the NFR bubble now. So not just a bull rider, not just competing for a bull riding world title with Stetson Wright. He may be competing with a bull riding world title and an all-around world title with Stetson Wright. And that'll be more important when we talk about Stetson a little later in the show, because Stetson Wright is not a lock for the NFR in the saddle bronc riding. He is far from it. He's right on the bubble there, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Continuing down our list, Rocker Steiner. How can you not mention him? 14,000 in Salt Lake City. He's second to Wacey Schalla there. 14,000 plus in Spanish Fork. The walk-off win with Post Malone in attendance while they are filming a documentary about him. Just as storybook as you can get for Rocker, and a great season for Rocker Steiner, the bareback rider, but also Rocker Steiner, the superstar, because he seems to always be at his best when the cameras are the brightest. You know, Cheyenne in the finals notwithstanding, he was 92 points in the semifinals there, but in the 60s in the finals. He's got a pinched nerve. He's going to rest up. But also with Rocker, you'll see times where guys get injured. They're out for a month or so. They don't lose any ground. They hop right back into things. It's kind of like nothing happened, and it kind of becomes a moot point at the end of the year. That's not the case at all with Rocker Steiner and Bradley Miller. Rocker trailed Bradley by $30,000 at the beginning of this month. And now he's going to lead him by $50,000 or $60,000 by the time July ends. So a crucial month for Rocker Steiner, and he has really taken control of that bareback riding race. Remember, he had about $233,000 to end the season last year. He's got over $200,000 right now, and depending on his health, he could also break a regular season record set by Keenan Hayes there. So that's definitely something to watch there, because every horse Rocker gets on, he seems to deliver. 8 of his last 9, 85.5 points, 2 90-point rides in that mix. The win in Salt Lake, or the win in Spanish Fork in that mix, 2nd place in Salt Lake City in that mix. So it didn't even really feel, because it was so spread out, like Rocker had this massive weekend, but he won over $30,000, which has become commonplace for him at big rodeos. And let me tell you, that is not common at all. That is a career weekend, a season-defining weekend for even guys who make the NFR. So Rocker Steiner, another big weekend. We'll see what happens with that injury. Nerve stuff could be Could be a little touch and go there, but right now he is firmly in control of the bareback riding, and he has really put his foot on the gas there. Our last star, our third star, if you will, Gavin Soileau in the steer wrestling. He wins $11,000 in Ogden, 3.6 and 4.3 to go from number 21 to number 15 in the world. But the real message there is the fact that at the beginning of this past week, the steer wrestling standings, number 6 and number 22, were separated by just $20,000. And so if you win $11,000 and you're number 21, you have exactly what happens to Gavin. He goes to number 15 in the world. And so that is something to watch in the steer wrestling, is that whoever wins these big rodeos, if it's a guy ranked, again, between 12 and 20 or between 16 and 20, they're immediately going to get into NFR contention. So watch out for who wins Caldwell. Watch out for who wins Kennewick. Watch out for who wins Dodge City. Because Gavin just jumped 6 spots by winning $11,000. And the steer wrestling is really the only event right now where something like that can happen. And lastly, hat tip to him, because at the beginning of this month, he was number 28 in the world. And it's when we get to July, that is when it really is like, hey, you got to go. Like, you can be 30th in the world at the beginning of July and still make the NFR. You can't be 30th in the world at the end of July and still make the NFR. So he goes from 28 to 15, and it completely changes the stakes of every run moving forward for him. It really all got started at Greeley. He won Greeley. He won the Home of Champions Rodeo in Red Lodge, Montana, won the Central Montana Fair and Rodeo. So Greeley, a big win, but then 2 decent sized wins. Ogden, another big win. That's 4 wins in the month of July. You partner that up with his win at the National Western to start the year. This is a college champion, and this is a guy who could very well be on his way to his first NFR, but the same thing goes on the flip side of what I'm talking about, where a couple bad weekends and a couple of the wrong people behind you winning rodeos, all of a sudden you're looking right back up in a tough spot. So still 2 months left, but Gavin Soileau did what he had to do, because all you can ask for August, September, really in any event, but again, especially in the steer wrestling, is just, hey, if I'm in the top 20 of the top 22 within 10K of an NFR spot, hey, let's go rodeo for 2 months and see what happens. And Gavin, again, is in position to do just that. Let's talk a little Cheyenne Frontier Days as well. Primarily the records that were set there. First, Kade Berry on Lunatic Heaven, an underdog in the finals. Certainly, he was outside the top 35 in the world entering Cheyenne. His brother Leighton on the Cowboy Channel show, the preview show, said as much. But Kade Berry has one of those rides that you will remember for the rest of your life. I have never been on a bucking horse before, but I would love to ask him how that one felt, because he was 93 and a half to win Cheyenne on Lunatic Heaven. 6 guys over 88 points in that final. It is the lowest ranked of them who delivers. That ride breaks an arena record set by Joe Alexander in 1974. That record was 51 years old. And now Kade Berry owns it. And so till at least next year, probably for a while, Kade Berry, regardless of what happens in his rodeo career, he is the arena. He's made the highest marked bareback ride in Cheyenne Frontier Days history. Of all the rodeos to own the arena record, is there any better than Cheyenne? I mean, again, that's one, even if it only lasts until next year, which I don't think it will, but even if it does, you tell people that all year, even if nothing else happens in his career. Kade Berry's only 22 years old. He's now got Cheyenne on his resume. He will make an NFR one day, but that's one that he'll remember forever. And I'm sure that ride, if you talk to him in 10 years, he either blacked out or he could tell you exactly what he's feeling. It feels like that goes one of 2 ways there. The other history, Brody Cress. This surprised me. No one had ever won Cheyenne in the bronc riding more than 3 times. Brody Cress, a Hillsdale, Wyoming native. Cheyenne is his hometown rodeo. He has 91 points on the black tie. He has now won it 4 times. His first in 6 years, a drought, quote unquote, for him because he hadn't won it since 2019. But a hometown kid, a kid who used to sneak behind the chutes to watch this rodeo when he was a child. Now, in front of family, in front of friends, he set himself in front of everyone who could get him to this point. In front of all of them, he wins that rodeo for the 4th time. He does it on right now what is probably the greatest horse in bronc riding. There have been 3 90-point rides just this month in the black tie. You start to think of some of the rodeos they've won that horse on just the last 2 years. Pendleton, Cheyenne twice, Salt Lake City, Sheridan, St. Paul. I believe St. Paul twice. That's just naming a few off the top of my head. But in the summer, if you've got that horse, you are an NFR quality cowboy. You're the pick to win the rodeo. If you do your job, that horse will be 45 points. You'll be 90, 91, 92. Same story in the bronc riding as in the bareback riding too. 6 guys, everyone who got a check, 88.5 points or better. But Brody Cress, a Wyoming native, will forever be the winningest bronc rider in Cheyenne Frontier Days. That is very, very special. And Brody Cress, as always, back in the top 10, taking care of business, looking to make it 10 straight NFRs. He is going to do it. I think he's the best active bronc rider to never win a world title. And so we'll see if that comes this year. But for the time being, you know, if you asked Brody Cress when he was 7 years old, if you could win 4 Cheyenne Frontier Days titles and multiple NFR average titles, would you take that career? He'd probably say yes. Of course, you want to win the world title, but he has got plenty of legendary checkpoints on there. More in Cheyenne, more legends. Tyson Durfee, after 20 years, wins it 10-9 in the finals. 9-4, his personal fastest time in Cheyenne, a 9-4 at 41 years old. Really cool story there. Lisa Lockhart wins as well. Danielle Lohman, 2 of our great female cowgirl athletes, barrel racer, breakaway roper, 2 of the best in the business there. And Quinn Anderson, bull riding. He announced himself, the Aussie, travels with Kai Hamilton. This is a guy to watch. He's really hot right now. He's in the top 10 in the world. His first 90-point ride delivers in Cheyenne there. So really exciting day from Frontier Park and truly history being made. You know, people throw around when history is made for a lot of not weak reasons, but smaller reasons. But the winningest bronc rider of all time and a bareback rider breaking a 51-year-old record. That is history in Cheyenne. That is history in Frontier Park. That is everything you could ask for if you pay for a ticket to that rodeo, to any rodeo, to have a show like the one they put on Sunday in Frontier Park. So a little bronc riding history made in Cheyenne. Now let's go to the guy who's the hottest bronc rider in the world. That is Damian Brennan. And Damian Brennan, he finished the regular season #1 last year. Remember, he has some of these incredible streaks in him. And what he has done recently is really nothing short of incredible. So let's go back to July 1st. Damian Brennan, on that date, on July 1, has $92,135. He is riding well. He is number 7 in the world. He is on his way to another NFR. But again, like Gavin Soileau, it really, if it's going to happen, if you are going to go from on the outskirts of the top 5, firmly in the top 10, to world title contention, for the most part, July is your last chance. You will have chances in September. You'll have a few in August, but you will have chances in September if you are already in the top 5, 6, or 7. And again, I say world title contention in the sense of going in as one of the 3, 4, 5 guys who could win the world on paper. Obviously, at the NFR, we have seen it before. Guys have won from number 15 in the world. They've won from number 11 in the world. They've won from number 7 in the world. The world champion can come from all kinds of places. I'm aware of that. But statistically speaking, they're probably going to come from the top 5, and they're probably going to be within $60,000-ish of the world number 1, or be the world number 1. That is, again, stranger things have happened. Stranger things will happen. I will be wrong about at least one event this year, probably saying that. But we'll go 6 or 7 in saying that you have to be in that top 4 or 5. So with that disclaimer in there, Damian Brennan, number 7, trailed number 1 or number 2 Dawson Hay by 40,000. Trailed number 1 Ryder Wright by 80,000. Now, as it stands today, Damian Brennan has $174,560. That is $14,000 behind Dawson Hay. Damian now number 3 in the world, by the way, and only $33,000 behind Ryder Wright. So he made up almost $30,000 on the world number 2 and almost $50,000 on the world number 1. And how'd he do it? Well, Ryder's had a pretty quiet month in terms of his standards, but also Ryder Wright has ridden pretty well this month. But when it comes down to the big rodeos, your Salt Lake Cities, your Spanish Forks this past week, to say one thing, he'll be 83, 84, 85, which has not been enough there. He's winning like he did over the weekend, the rooftop rodeo. He's doing well with small rodeos that only pay him $2,000, that some of these bigger rodeos, that's what 6th pays him when he could win $10,000, $12,000. So Damian has undoubtedly benefited from that. But Damian Brennan has won Salinas. He has won Sheridan. He won a round at the Calgary Stampede. He had 5 top 5 finishes over Cowboy Christmas. And he's averaging 86.4 points per ride on 17 horses in the month of July. And if you want to go even further, you want to see how someone is riding relative to the rest of the competition. It is not like Damian Brennan just bulldozed and steamrolled guys who didn't deserve to be in the top 5, who didn't deserve to be in the top 7. Here's who he jumped over to get to this point. Zach Dallas, Statler Wright, Sage Newman, Cade Bruno. And he is closing in again on Dawson Hay, on Ryder Wright. If all of them stay at this pace, which, you know, who knows if that'll happen, obviously. There's plenty of things that can change that. Dawson Hay was just 94 points in the hard grass Bronc match. So these guys aren't going anywhere. But if they stay on this pace, Damian Brennan will be number 1 by mid-September. And I wouldn't have said this even a week or 2 ago, but I think he can do it. I think he can absolutely do it. And again, now the NFR is a different beast, because to go back to what I said earlier about Damian Brennan, as long as Ryder Wright enters the NFR within $20,000, $30,000, I'd say like $40,000. If Ryder Wright were to lose this number 1 spot, he could still be 40,000 behind Brennan, Hay, Bruno, whoever the world number 1 ends up being if it's not Ryder Wright. And he would still be the pick at the NFR. So I will say this, again, with the disclaimer that we still have 2 more months of rodeo. My prediction for how this will shake out will be someone other than Ryder Wright will enter the NFR number 1. And I think it will be Damian Brennan. But I would still, all that being said, so again, that goes to how much does this really matter right now? I don't know. I know you want to be as close to number 1 as possible for as long as possible heading into the National Finals Rodeo. That I do know. But with all that being said, I think we are on pace and on course for Damian Brennan going into the NFR number 1 again, and Ryder Wright winning the world title again. Another disclaimer on that. I will just say this. Look out for Zeke Thurston. That's all. I know we're not really going out on any limbs there, picking the last 2 world champions to really make some noise down the stretch or make some noise in Las Vegas. But I'm just saying Zeke Thurston looks awesome right now. He looks confident. Damian Brennan looks really confident too. You see Damian Brennan getting off these horses. He is fired up. He knows he is sticking some of these horses right now. And that's, you see guys all the time. We just talked about Rocker Steiner. You know, when you get hot and you feel it and you feel like you can ride anything underneath you for 87, 88 points, that's a powerful feeling, especially this time of year when you get to get on 4 or 5 a week, 3 or 4 a weekend. It's good to feel good. And Damian Brennan, I think, feels better than anyone, it would seem, by body language, if I'm playing body language doctor. But I will throw in, again, Zeke Thurston, second in Cheyenne over the weekend, 1 Calgary. I mean, that is Zeke Thurston showing up, and that is Zeke Thurston at his best right there. So do not dismiss Zeke Thurston by any stretch of the imagination there. We talked a little rider right. Let's go to one of the other Wright brothers, and that is Stetson Wright, who still leads the all-around by about $100,000. He now leads the bull riding. I repeat, Stetson Wright, $293,000, is back on top of Wacey Schalla. He leads Wacey Schalla by $14,000. Leads number 3, Tristan Hutchings, by over $100,000. So Stetson Wright might enter. I mean, he could very well enter the NFR with $400,000 already won in the bull riding. You know, Wacey's throwing some counter punches. We've talked about that recently. Stetson back in control, and he did it by splitting Ogden. He split it with Fulton Rutland. And it was interesting for Stetson Wright in Ogden because he won the bull riding with 88 points, and that bull riding title, they both won him about $14,000. That bull riding title gets him back to number 1. So that is back to world title race right there for Stetson Wright on the bull riding side. On the bronc riding side, I don't think a lot of people realize this. Stetson Wright was number 17 in the world, and he was like $20,000 outside of the NFR in the bronc riding entering this past weekend. But he wins Ogden, 90 points on Joker Poker. He's 4th in Spanish Fork in the bronc riding. And then he wins a check in Salt Lake City as well. And so Stetson Wright now, we're seeing a little groove. We saw him find it earlier. Then he lost some ground. It took a little while back from injury. Remember, that injury is really hard. The one that kept him out for over a year, really hard on bronc riding, more so than bull riding. But since Sheridan, 84.5 points on all 8 horses. He's got 6 in a row right now of 85 points or better. Again, there's a 90 in there in Ogden, 89 in Cheyenne, 87.5 in Spanish Fork, all in the mix there. And so just like that, Stetson Wright, number 15 in the world, back in the saddle bronc riding. And what's interesting too, is he bumped out Ben Anderson and Lefty Holman when he moved up. And so there's going to be some guys that we have grown accustomed to seeing. The saddle bronc riding is really stacked with familiar names. But at that number 15 spot, if Stetson re-enters, you know, there's going to be a Lefty Holman, a Ben Anderson, a Ryder Sanford on the outside looking in. But for Lefty and Ben, that hasn't happened as much in recent years. And so we'll continue to monitor that. Also important, we mentioned we were going to tie this back together. Also important is now Wacey Schalla could make it in the bareback riding. So there is a scenario where, yes, Stetson Wright, still the heavy favorite in the all-around, still the favorite in the bull riding, certainly. But there is a scenario where Wacey Schalla makes it in the bareback riding now, and Stetson doesn't in the saddle bronc riding. He could rack up some bareback riding checks and potentially run Stetson down. If you are looking for another competitive all-around race, the first one in like 5 years without Stetson, that is what you would be rooting for, but I doubt many people are rooting against Stetson Wright. I think we're rooting for Stetson Wright to win as many world titles as possible in his return. But that scenario is it's very much in play. I think it's more in play than people realize. Is it likely? No, probably not. But there is a chance that Wacey Schalla could really make up a lot of ground with his bareback riding at the NFR if Stetson were to not make it. But as it stands today, Stetson Wright, clutch for two reasons in Ogden and over the weekend. Like I said, clutch to get back to number one in the bull riding. And now he is playing with the lead there, and the unstoppable force in the bulls continue, but also to get a little bit of mojo in the Bronc riding and make some noise in the bubble race on the Bronc riding. So again, fighting a two-front war, Stetson Wright is. He's trying to win the world title in the bull riding. He's out in front there. He is trying to hold on to the 15 spot in the Bronc riding. And if that wasn't reason enough, there is perhaps even more intrigue around Stetson Wright, maybe than any point in his career, for how much money he's making in the bulls, the injury return, now the Bronc riding in the mix. There's so much happening with Stetson Wright that he's going to be for the next 60 days. And then in Las Vegas, it will be impossible to take your eyes off of him. And we will finish today with a little injury news. Haven Meged back after missing about a month in the tie-down roping. He has made every single NFR since 2019. Missed a little over a month. He was number 17, slipped down to number 38 over the weekend. He got a good amount of ground back, a good chunk of ground back. He's now number 31 in the world standings. He won the Little Bighorn Stampede and the Central Montana Rodeo, in addition to second in the average in Deadwood. However, at some of those big Utah rodeos, he did not have as much luck, but $10,000, up 7 spots in the world standings. He can just chip away at it. I think Haven Meged, despite the injury, despite missing about a month, he has a good chance to make it to the National Finals Rodeo. And remember, this guy holds the average record and the arena record at the Thomas and Mack in the tie-down roping. Now to close, some bullfighter injury news, and one of the most recognizable bullfighters in our game, Cody Webster, will be sidelined for the rest of the season. However, in true bullfighter fashion, he hurt his shoulder. This is according to the Cowboy Channel. He hurt his shoulder at the Music City Rodeo, which was at the end of May. He's having surgery on that shoulder. Since that rodeo, he has dislocated his shoulder 7 times fighting bulls, but he has continued to fight bulls. He wanted to finish out the full 4th of July run all the way through Cheyenne. And so he makes it all the way through Cheyenne, 2 months on a dislocated shoulder that he had to pop back into place 7 times. And I'm sure there were more injuries, problems that he didn't even realize before he has surgery. That surgery will keep him out 4 to 6 months. So we are hoping it's right on the timeline for Cody Webster to get back for the NFR. So we'll see if he can return to the dirt at the NFR. Again, that would be very difficult to come back and have the NFR be your first rodeo back. So I'm not sure how likely that is, but he is a fixture there at the National Finals Rodeo. He is one of the best bullfighters we have. He's the second most decorated right now behind Dusty Tuckness in terms of active bullfighters. And you knew he was a tough son of a gun. I don't need to tell you that. He is tougher than me. He doesn't broadcast from a Fort Worth office. He actually goes out and looks bulls in the eyes and fights them face to face on a week in and week out basis. So you know he is tougher than me. You don't need to say that. But he's tougher than just about anybody, because he kept injuring it and he said, no, I got to be out on the road in July. I got to be in Cheyenne. I got to be doing what I do. And so we hope to see Cody Webster doing what he does as quickly as possible back from that shoulder injury. Again, thank you to the Cowboy Channel for that injury update on Cody Webster. That is the first new edition, longer 25, 30-minute edition of No Huddle Rodeo. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, tell a friend. It all helps us get the word out. It helps us keep doing this show every week, which we will continue to do. through the PRCA season, through the PBR team season. We will be here. No Huddle Rodeo every Wednesday, the morning kick every Tuesday, some PBR teams content in there as well. But we hope you enjoyed this first edition of a new look, a new and improved, if you will, No Huddle Rodeo. We are broadcasting from the Fort Worth Stockyards. We are brought to you by Runyon's Fine Furniture and Justin Boots. And we thank you for staying with us today. Subscribe, tell a friend. We'll see you next Tuesday for the morning kick. Check out the one we just did about the PRCA playoff standings and the impact those will have moving forward. I think it's very informative for how the next 2 months are going to play out. So go enjoy that on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed this. Like, subscribe, and we'll be back next Tuesday with the morning kick and next Wednesday with No Huddle Rodeo every week, 9 a.m. here on US Cowboy. Thank you for joining us. We will see you then.